This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
You've seen and read my 3 Pillars ebook, and now I'm proud to announce my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship, and it's now out and ready for reading. This new book of mine is a full-length version of the teachings of the 3 Pillars, and in it I show you how to walk in the integrity of eternal universal laws, in step with the law of attraction to consistently create the life you desire. Now, if you've ever wondered just why you can't consistently manifest all the good, loving, abundant, healthy, and happy things you desire, my new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, will reveal the key in how to do just that. Plus, help you build a rock-solid personal foundation that will stand strong for the ages. Get your copy today. My new book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship by Carl Gruber. Available now in ebook and paperback on Amazon.com. Ta-da! Welcome, my friends, to another awesome episode of this podcast, World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. Now, this is episode number 74, which is a continuation of the absolutely amazing master teachers, experts, healers, channels, authors, and light workers that have been on past shows. And we'll keep that long string of amazing guests going on this show, too. But first, I passionately ask you to please take a short moment to click the subscribe button to this channel so that you never, ever miss a single episode of this show. And thank you. So as promised, this show keeps the habit of having some amazing guests on, and to keep you not only inspired, but to also help you open your mind and heart to understanding and living from the spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening plane. And on this show, I have 2 guests who are returning for their second appearance each, Amanda Monnier and Ruth Hermida. Amanda, of course, is an energy healer, mentor, author, podcaster, certified yoga instructor, creator of the Yin Yoga Recode Method, and a lady we call the New Earth Visionary. I love that. And her good friend, Ruth Hermida, also joins us. Ruth is also an energy healer who works with physical diseases, inflammation, and allergies, and basically any conditions that manifest physically in a negative manner in your body. So welcome back, ladies. Love to have you together on the show.
Hello. Yeah, thank you. We're all going to be like talking. It's going to be so great. No, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you so much. This is great.
And I think the viewers and listeners are going to realize right away, you two are personal friends too, even though you live about an hour apart, right?
Yes, we are. I mean, we actually, I feel like I've known you forever, but I think it's been maybe 2 years, probably something like that.
Yeah, I think it's been about 2 years. We met during a certification program, and I was in Northern California at the time, and then moved to Southern California. And we're like, wait, we're only an hour away. We actually get to have, instead of just a virtual friendship, we actually get to like meet up. So we talk almost every day, and we meet up, 3-4 times a month. So
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And two, it's good to have 2 friends who who do the same thing. And when you 2 get together, man, people must have to wear sunglasses because there's so much light going on and love there. So,
oh, you're so sweet.
Well, we kind of talked before we came on the show here that this is going to be kind of a wide-ranging discussion in which the three of us are just going to touch on a number of subjects important in understanding the what, how, and why of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening. What I'm curious about too, and I know we've talked about this in previous shows, but the three of us here together. So you're both qualified energy healers. What exactly does an energy healer do, and how does that improve one's physical conditions? Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, I'll start. So for me, what I've come to really embody and appreciate as far as an energy healer, I feel like it's a combination of that, but it's also a healing facilitator, because we all have this divine intelligence that runs through the fabric of our being, and we all are powerful in our own way, and we all have our own unique soul frequency, our own soul medicine. And so to me, it's like this, this helping others just remember their power and remember that everything they need is inside of them, and that, we can release all of these things that we maybe thought were us at one point in time. We don't have to keep carrying these things. We can actually return back to that, the divine genome. We can return back to that divine blueprint of our body, our soul. And so it just, for me, it's been a very humbling experience, really being able to learn, for me, what that means.
Yeah. And I'd say for me, energy, we're all made up of energy. So for me, I love science and I love understanding how the body works. And I've always loved to, delve into things at that, microscopic level, and that energetic level, and then that quantum level. So for me, it's very similar to Amanda, like really reconnecting back into your truth, like leaving the egoic part of you and just really reconnecting back in, which we all have the ability to do this, and really being able to manipulate energy and shift, because we are energy, we can shift and go into the space where we are the all, we are the everything, we are connected to source, God, love. And when we can really truly connect into that space through our heart field, I always find this is the strongest field in the body. When we can truly connect into that place, we can connect into our own energy field, and being able to recognize, I used to always, I used to always be, I'm a feeler. I'm a big feeler. Like I feel everything around me. Right. And I always felt like somebody else, when I'm around somebody else or I'm with somebody else, there's always this oh, that must be my feeling or whatever. And it's a lot of times it's this collective, it's this, the people around us, and we are always tuning into energy around us. So I guess it's just kind of really recognizing that and coming back to that, and seeing that we are all energy, and everybody feels each other. We're not in this physical body, we're outside here.
What you just described, isn't that what an empath does?
Say that again, what an empath does?
Yeah, the way you feel other people's energy, isn't that how it works when you're empathetic with somebody?
Yeah, and I think everybody is an empath. How I see it is that some people have shut it off. Mm-hmm. And we all come into this world as being tuned into, like, as pure divine source souls that do not have all this clutter and this stuff that's been piled on, and we're open to everything. So we're all empathic. And it's just that through time, I think some people have just, put walls up, put barriers up to protect themselves. And, I know there are some people who maybe can connect in more deeply than others, even being born into this world. But I truly believe it's coming back to who we really are. And yeah, that is, we're all empathic. We've all got it.
Well, and I've had personal friends who are empaths, and also talked to empaths here, and some of them don't have any of those barriers, and because they literally just absorb the negative energies around them, and they get home and they get blam face first onto the couch because they're just fried from it. And I think that's something that I have learned. And you're right. We're all empathetic to some point, but a true empath, if they want to exist in a normal way, they have to learn how to create limits or do a clearing of their own energy field once they get out of a negative realm.
Yeah, I found some very powerful practices for that is just, I call it like strengthening the energy field. And so, because we can connect to the heart of source, the light of God, whatever frequency we want to call it, and we can bring that in and flush out the things that aren't us. And oftentimes too, it's like, I found that we can choose to see it in a certain framework as well. Because I used to kind of be in the boat where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm affected by everything. I can't go to the store. And it's like, well, if I say that that's true and that's my perception and my belief, then it is true because we are, a lot of us, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a sensitive being. But I would give the invitation to kind of reframe because you are that powerful, right? So if we're viewing it from a reference point of you are that powerful, you can literally just connect into the all that isness of you, and you can strengthen your field and you can just choose to let go. Because what I find is it's like we can choose to take on these energies, but if we're carrying around this dense stuff, these jackets and suitcases that aren't ours, it's like, is it serving us more to be in our light and to be in our truth and to be in our power? Or is it serving us more to be holding stuff for others? Not that we can't hold space and be supportive and that we can't feel feelings. Like that's one thing about the human experience that's never going to go away is the emotions that come with it. But then we also have the beliefs and the identity structures and the perceptions that's where we can use, we can change. We're not stuck. I don't feel we're stuck in that space, if that makes sense.
So do one or both of you, will you actually, I know some people can actually see a person's energy aura and that type of thing and feel, are you ever overwhelmed by another person's energy field too, even just like a stranger walking into the room?
I mean, both Amanda and I can tell you when we hang out together and I don't necessarily, personally, I don't visually see somebody's energy field as much as like feel somebody's energy field, and I can sense it, and then I can, I could tune into it. But like Amanda and I, when we hang out together, sometimes we'll be like, whoa, what was that? Like we will both sense something at the same time, and we'll know, somebody else's energy field. And it's a little bit, it's more of for me, again, it's more of a feeling. I don't know about you, Amanda, but.
Yeah, I think that, one thing I've learned throughout this is we all have our unique way that we process energy. We sense energy. Some people call it like the clairs, and, human design is very helpful with identifying these things. Like we all have a different soul frequency. We all have a different soul blueprint. And so one thing I've learned through my journey is it's not black and white, right? So I can say like, this is what works for me, but it might not work for the next person. So I always say like, take what resonates and leave the rest, because it's about really just, it's like a relationship with our intuition, with our own soul blueprint and what we're here to experience and how we're experiencing things, and kind of that feedback loop. And then also like those choice points, like I mentioned, like if we want to continue playing with this experience, one thing that has been very humbling for me is this mirroring effect that I've noticed lately. Like when I've gotten triggered probably more times than I have recently in the last like month or so. And it's been with relationship stuff, with friend stuff. And I'm like, I feel this trigger inside of my body, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely mine. So that's one thing I always, suggest asking, is this something that's tied to my own beliefs and my own identity structure, something that wants to be seen, felt, heard, sat with, whatever it is this an inner child thing? Or is this something that I'm picking up on that is outside of my own body? So it's kind of twofold in that sense, because, oftentimes we kind of are communicating unconsciously. So we may unconsciously say, okay, I'm going to take this on for you. But it's like, well, first of all, is that serving the other person in their own soul growth? And is that serving you? We don't have to do that. We could choose to do it. Maybe it's something we're going to experience for a little while, but I've just really come to appreciate these activations and triggers as a way to go deeper inside myself. And it's been very humbling, to say the least.
Yeah, I think in order to do to get into any of this work, we have to be willing to look within and take responsibility that everything is created through and within us, and it's all our perception. So like, relationships and is one of the biggest ways we can truly understand ourselves, because it's the one way that we actually learn is through relationships. It's through these interactions. And it's like maybe these triggers that come up are your own, it's not this, pointing your finger at somebody else. It's them. It's, blame, shame, whatever, control, whatever you're trying to do in the relationship. It's really looking back within the self and understanding your patterns. Where is this coming from? What is this showing me within myself? So like that whole mirroring image, you really want to be able to take accountability for looking back within yourself and learning to truly heal those aspects of yourself and, be willing to look. I think so many people are just like not willing to go there.
Well, staying with this theme of energy healing, I mean, you're both known as energy healers. So when somebody comes to you with a physical malady or even a mental malady, what exactly does an energy healer do? What do you do with that particular person when they're presented and they want a healing, in your case, via energy work? How does that happen?
Yeah, so for me, it's been interesting because I wasn't focusing so much on the physical body, but I've had an influx of clients that have been wanting to focus on that. So I've actually shifted my work a bit to do more work with the physical body, but we're multidimensional beings. It's all multi-layered. It's, if we're working with the physical body, we're working on all levels and layers. The first thing that I do when I work with clients is we connect in with the frequency of that aspect of them that is already living in that truth of who they are. So let's say, for example, I have a program going. It's called Radiance. It's all about stepping into your next level of health, vitality, and radiance. So we have access to what I call the divine radiance blueprint, which is literally that golden timeline of you in your highest expression of health, vitality, and radiance. So we tune into that first, and we're not focused so much on the problem or on the heaviness initially. We're tuning into what we're choosing, what we're aligning with, because I don't feel that time is linear as we think of it. So we're tuning into the quantum field, that part and aspect of you that's already there. And so we're downloading, we can call them light codes. We can call them, parts of that blueprint that want to come online. We're really connecting with that and embodying that frequency. And then we can take a look at, okay, well, from what's coming up right now, what am I noticing? What are some of the physical symptoms I'm noticing? What are some of the belief structures I'm noticing? What are some of the, patterns I'm noticing, the identity structures I'm noticing that are causing this resistance piece? And it can be a whole variety of things that come through. We start to kind of pull those illusions, those misunderstandings out. So it really frees this space up, because what I found too is there is this, I call it like the miracle grid system. Like we can plug into this at any moment, and we can really shift and have these quantum leaps to where, we don't have to be experiencing. But I feel that there is a piece where the belief that you can is important, and the choosing to go there is also important. So that's just kind of a condensed version of how I would initially start, from focusing on like, who are you? Like the truth of who you are. And then, maybe we've played some characters that aren't you, and you're ready to take off that density so that you can experience all that this life has to offer. Because I truly believe this life is beautiful if we choose to be able to go there and to experience that.
Wow, that's a great explanation. Wow, thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And Amanda and I have taken very similar courses and have learned very similar techniques of how to really be able to, transform the body. And like she mentioned, that our physical body is the most tangible way to see our body, where it's not in harmony with who we truly are. And our physical body is how we will manifest. We have this spiritual, emotional, all these different aspects of it, and the physical body is the shell that's actually physically showing us. So it's really about, when I work with clients, I tune into, well, we always try to create that intention of what we truly want and what we want to create and where we want to move towards. And then once we get into that, we can kind of get into dissecting what's really going on in the body and where you are now and what the body is feeling like, and going in there and asking some questions of, how is this getting in the way of my truth? And, I can tune into the body and feel like certain aspects of the body where it's not in harmony. So I really look more on the levels of where, if you're having pain in your shoulder or like pain in your back, I already know there's certain parts of the body that have very similar, like, for instance, your lower back may hold a lot of energies around, your root chakra, right? So like money and family and like some of those really deep emotions. So I kind of already can tune into a little bit of what's going on. And then the way I actually work is I actually will go through, I have a really deep kit that I use, and I go through my kits and I really dissect and go through and figure out where our body is not in harmony with like pathogens, with viruses, with fundamentals, like the building blocks, like amino acids in the body, and like all sorts of different parts and aspects, emotions, beliefs, spiritual things. And I have kits that hold specific energies, and we can go through and find out what's really in your way. And I can find your specific energy pattern and your specific what's holding you back in that place in your body. And we go through and we can really clear it out by going into your unique blockage or energy blockage that's kind of in the way. Because I kind of see, illness and disease is like this, like, it's almost like when you take a bunch of rubber bands and you tie them up in a little ball, and it's like this like dense energy that's just like, like not able to like loosely like flow, and stuff is not able to process properly. So it's really, breaking apart that energy pattern.
So
that makes sense.
Both have your unique abilities to actually see, feel, sense energy imbalances in a client or a person. But what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, the real healing comes when you point this out to the client with the issue that wants to be healed. And the real healing comes within them. They have to shift their own understanding of what's going on. So really, you're just kind of directing them to make changes within themselves, right?
Yeah, we're like the facilitator. We're basically opening the doors, or maybe lifting the veil off, opening their subconscious mind to be more consciously aware. And sometimes you don't need to be consciously aware of everything to be able to clear it. But we're really here to, I like to hold space for my clients and really be able to allow, stuff may come through me, but it's really about them, connecting into their higher self, and their higher self being able to do the work as well. So it's not through me how I see it. And maybe I explained it once before on the other podcast we did, but I kind of see it as this triangle, and I see source above at the top, and God, source, creator, however you see it. And then I see myself here and my client here. And we're both connecting into the same source energy, and they're healing themselves through source. And I'm just kind of holding space over here, helping them see and open up that field of energy.
So you both have used the word facilitator, and I think, Amanda, you're aware. I think you're a member of my Power of 8 healing group that I have on Facebook, which is based on Lynn McTaggart's book, The Power of 8, where 8 or more people come together, either virtually or live, to focus on a person, place, or thing or healing. I'm actually doing a session in a little while. I have now almost 600 people from around the world on this group. Now, I am a classic facilitator of this in that I'm not good at sensing energy or seeing auras or whatever. However, I understand what's going on, and what you just said is the Power of 8, or anybody who comes together, whether it's one-on-one or 87 people focusing on one thing, there is that source above you, and you focus on that. And in joining together, since we're all divinely connected and energetically connected, it makes complete sense to me that you can heal in that method. And even you may understand this too, being the healers that you are. There's this rebound effect. When you heal somebody in some way, shape, or form, you guys have a rebound of your own healing in however it comes about. I don't know if you've ever sensed that.
Yeah, I definitely have. And it just is, again, like, it's like Ruth had kind of mentioned this, but it's like it's just coming through me, right? And so and that wasn't initially the way I was trained. It was like, oh, I'm doing the healing. This was years ago, before I really understood this on a deeper level. And it's almost, I talked about even mirroring. So we can, mirror in certain ways where the triggers might come up. We can also act as a beautiful mirror for our clients to see themselves at a deeper level. And I say that in both aspects. So it's like they're seeing the truth of who they are at a deeper level. And it's just a reminder. Sometimes we can all use a reminder. And then it's like they have the opportunity. It's like, okay, we're pointing out little things which could be causing that discord inside of the body. And then they choose to accept it. So whenever I'm doing a healing, I'm speaking to their higher self. And we are our higher selves. I don't feel our higher self is not separate from us. We are our higher selves, and we are a unique extension of God. And so all we have to do is ask. It's so simple. And there have even been some little beliefs that I've shifted from even the teachers and things that I've trained under, because I'm like, oh, that just doesn't feel as expansive as it could be. And so we're constantly growing and evolving and expanding. And when we are, I feel intention is the key here. So intention is so powerful, because if our intention is coming from this gracious and humble and this divine place, then it's like, that's when we're like channeling from God, right? We're channeling the information. So, I'll go in, like Ruth mentioned, and do some pre-work prior to the session, but it's like, other than that, it's like, I don't know what's going to come through in the session, because it's the all the isness of the divine coming through me for the highest benefit of the client and for what they're meant to experience in conjunction with their higher self. So it's like this co-creative process, which does tie into what we were kind of chatting about with even some of the aspects of unity consciousness, because in the law of one talks about this, but it's like, if everyone is just us pushed out, then of course, like you mentioned, there is that rebound effect, because it sends those beautiful ripple effects everywhere. And we can see it from, this very divine space. And, we are not, the separation is a complete illusion. And we've been in these spaces. We can see with some of the things going on the planet, the extreme polarity, the extreme, emotion that this is causing in people. It is an opportunity to not be pointing our fingers outward, but to go within and to be able to neutralize and harmonize. We've said that word harmony several times. I've just found like this equilibrium and this energy of harmony that is like getting to experience heaven on earth, in my humble opinion.
Wow, you just touched on a whole bunch of cool stuff. I do want to touch on, you're mentioning intention. So even if you go back to, and I talked to Dr. Joe Vitale about this on my previous podcast, about when he was in the movie The Secret, his colleague, Mike Dooley, classic line in the movie The Secret: thoughts are things, thoughts are energy. And so since intention is focused thought, and it really is powerful. Even again, going back to Lynn McTaggart, the originator of the Power of Eight, one of her most famous books is The Intention Experiment. So yes, when my Power of Eight group gets together, it's all focused intention, all energy on one thing. But wow, geez, we got a lot more to talk about. Let's. Ruth, you kind of brought this up in an email when we were thinking about topics, and Amanda just touched on it. What exactly is unity consciousness?
Yeah, so unity consciousness is, I mean, how I see it is we're all connected. We are all one. We are all part of the whole. And unity consciousness are a lot of these belief systems and these imprints that we've imprinted within the world. And we know this, like statistically, they've even been able to study this, that when we put DNA inside, of a vacuum thing, and then you take the DNA out, the DNA structure is still there. And so you can actually create imprints in these vacuums or these, and so we know that our consciousness and things that we are all feeling are staying within the field of where we are all are. I don't know if I'm saying that right. So how I see unity consciousness is we're all part of the whole, and we're all connected, and we all are creating this like beautiful dance with each other and just reflecting off each other. And Amanda said an amazing thing too, which I truly believe, in order for our society to heal, it's not looking outside of us. It's really looking back, with all these polarities. It's whenever there's, the only way our society is able to heal is able to look within and look within the self and understand that we are part of the all, and we are, creating this reality that we're all in.
And that's interesting. I mean, everything you say is beautiful, but it's actually the opposite of what is being presented in worldwide reports on TV and newspapers and everything. It's over the last couple of years, it's all been about being separate.
Well, that's where we've been coming from, right? And this is subconsciously, this is the life we've been living for hundreds and hundreds of years. And now everything is coming to light. So now people are seeing the ramifications of this like polarity, and how we're getting deeper and deeper in this space of being separate from each other. And I think, there are a lot of us that are recognizing and seeing this, because it's so, to me, it's so obvious. It's so like in my face. And, I think it needs to be shown to the world. And I think the world needs to see it. And I think that's where we're at now. Like, this is what I believe. I think this is where we're at now. We're being shown, and we're being able to, like, all these things are being brought to our attention right now, and to an extreme, so that we can see it, before it's just been like, pushed under the rug for a very long time.
Well, maybe I'll ask Amanda this. What are some practical applications of everything we're talking here that people can use to navigate through this crazy timeline of, well, it's a new reality for humanity, that's for sure. But are there practical applications that you think somebody can use?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just mention, with some of these things going on, the first thing I would say is, if, you're finding yourself getting triggered, it's an opportunity, once again, like we've been mentioning, to pause for a moment. So it's one thing that's, pausing, taking a deep breath, that breaks up the story. Because when we're looking at all the things going on outside of ourselves and assigning some sort of attachment or external power, like it has some power over us. Like, I can't tell you half the stuff going on the planet right now because I just pay it no attention. At the end of the day, if we're creating our own reality, which we are, if we're the creative force of our own life, which we are, if we're an extension of God, which we are, then that all comes from within us. So, in the most loving, non-judgmental way, what I would say to, maybe people who are really feeling triggered by the political stuff going on, or whatever's in the mainstream media on today, and then whatever's in the mainstream media on Friday, because it's going to be a different thing. It's an opportunity to go within, because a lot of the things that are going on right now, I heard someone refer to as like kind of a spiritual sickness. We're seeing a bit of that in the main stage of, the world that we're living in. So when we have these things, it's like a physical illness in the body pop to the surface. It's like getting our attention. It's like, excuse me, take a look here. I'm trying to get your attention before it turns into something 10 times worse than this. So we have an opportunity to pause. And with that pause and with that breaking up of the story, I'll give a couple different, ways that I use. I'll either call in the light of God and just ask that it be dissolved. And I'll oftentimes just feel it being dissolved. It'll just release. And we can also, again, we can breathe into, we can put a hand on that space. Our body will tell us where it is. You can ask some questions. Maybe you don't even need to know the original origin. Sometimes the soul, likes to let us know where this comes from. It's like a deeply rooted behavior pattern or something that kept us really safe for a long time, because that's what all these things are. It's just the story that kept you safe as a little child, that kept you from getting abused, or, fill in the blank. We all have some sort of story. But if you're constantly being triggered and you're feeling this at a very deep level, then, maybe as like a super practical thing, turn the TV off for a hot minute. Like that would be another recommendation, because everything that you're consuming. So we consume things, at a physical level with food, but we're also consuming things at that mental, emotional level. So, where are you consuming things that are causing that, that discord that's feeding that pattern and that's feeding that story that you're not quite ready to shine the light on? And that's okay too. But oftentimes it continues to show up until we're willing to shine the light on it for a moment. And sometimes it just takes a moment. That's it. Like it doesn't have to be necessarily this long drawn out process. It takes that moment of acknowledging and allowing that part of us that already knows that we want to let it go, that higher part, right? But then we got the small self that's just kind of like, oh gosh, but if I let go, then I'll have to actually step into my own power. And, it doesn't have to keep being the story. So pausing is definitely number one, pausing.
Wow.
And I want to add to that too. It's like when we do have these emotions that come up, or these things, when we get triggered by something, and when we do pause, it gives us a chance to kind of reflect and come back in and kind of say, okay, what are you showing me? What does this mean? And it's okay to we're so used to just like shutting it off and like going to have a drink or going to distract yourself or whatever it is, so we don't feel the feelings. And sometimes it's really good to just allow ourselves to feel the feelings, because the feeling is not the truth necessarily. It could be something that you maybe experienced in the past, but it's not necessarily your truth now. And how you're truly, this is how I see it. It's almost like an illusion, and we're recreating that emotion in our body. And so it's allowing ourselves to pause, maybe where is this coming from? We don't need to change it right away. We can allow ourselves to sit with it and feel it a little bit. And then we can, if we need to release it, we can release it, but we don't have to be like rush and have to, do all these things to get rid of it. But it is important to feel the feelings, and we don't want to sit there forever and dwell on them, but it's recognizing them and allowing ourselves to heal from them.
Wow, some deep spiritual wisdom from two ladies of light. I mean, it's just phenomenal what you guys are presenting here. I love it. Now, Amanda, you did mention a little while ago, this is the current weirdness in the world is described as a spiritual sickness. And really, there are deep spiritual ramifications with what's happening in the world, because for all of humanity, we've been driven by the ego of duality, where everything is love and fear, separation, all this type of thing. And in the study of true spirituality or non-dualistic spirituality, there is no separation. There cannot be separation. And when we take the moment, like you guys are describing, to sit in our own divine power and remember our own true self, our own divinity, it's impossible to be separate from that person who's 6 feet away, and that type of thing. And it is hard to remember that when, you're standing in line at 7-Eleven waiting to pay for gas, and you're in a hurry and people are grumpy, but you can just go within and do that. So yeah, you can pull within and follow true spiritual unity and unity consciousness.
And if we remember that the only moment we have is the now. So let's say, for example, because we think of, we have the past, and then I'm doing air quotes, like we have the future. But if all we have right now is this moment, then it's like, are we chasing something into the future? Are we dwelling on the past? The now is just so powerful. And that's where the story breaks down. And sometimes, again, it can just take that 5 seconds. It could take a moment. And then it just brings that divinity of who you are into this space where it's like this center point. It's just this 0 point. It's like, if you've never experienced it, it's kind of hard to put words to, because it's like in this space in the now. And I know it sounds a little taboo, but once you experience it in the now moment, being able to just call back. And sometimes I'll just say, I just call all parts and aspects of me into the now, and I'm just going to be in the now for a moment. And I'm just going to breathe and be the observer of what's going on. Because when we observe, then we can see things from that higher perspective and from the truth of who we are, rather than that part of us that's been playing on all these roles and characters. And we can just bring more of that frequency in, and we can choose that. And that in and of itself, I always say, the high vibe frequency of who you are doesn't exist with the dense illusion and misunderstandings of the past. So that's why too, it's we don't have to focus on the problem, because when we're bringing that frequency in, it already neutralizes and dissolves what was just coming up and triggering. We can literally reframe it in a moment by aligning with that frequency and the truth of who we are and our own soul's frequency.
Mm-hmm. Well, and talking about there's only now. I saw a funny cartoon. I actually have it here on my desktop, but I can't pull it up. A now clock, and it has the arms to go to the hour and the minute, and at the top of the hour it says now. Where you would see 1, it says now, and where you would see 2, it says now. Where you would see there's only now, and of course we could just. Let's go over and visit with Eckhart Tolle, and we can talk to him more about that, the power of now. Well, I'm going to switch gears here, and I've got kind of a big question. I just kind of was thinking you guys would have some really great thoughts on this. First of all, what do you think is the difference between spirituality and metaphysics? Now, I have a definition that I got from the dictionary of metaphysics. Physics is the branch of philosophy that examines the nature of reality, including the relationship between mind, matter, substance, and attribute, fact, and value. So, I know it's kind of a big question, but I'm really curious what the difference between spirituality and metaphysics, or is there a difference?
This is fun because my brain just yeah. Well, what's coming to me is because I operate more in I guess we could call it, because we humans love to label things. Let's just be real. We love to label things. So as far as the spirituality side of it, I always say I'm more of the woo woo. For me, it's this inner knowing, and I haven't been so engulfed in the science. For some reason, the metaphysics feels to me a bit more sciencey. And then, the spirituality, for me, what is coming through, it just feels like this connectedness and this, all that isness, again, just this frequency of truth. And, it feels like, I don't feel any ego in that, when we talk about that, when we're connected to that space. And then, metaphysics to me feels more of, when we're in kind of that more, it feels a bit more masculine to me. And when we're in more of like that sciencey role and understanding things at a deeper level, the quantum particles and how the energy actually works, which again, like I'm definitely veer more towards like, okay, this is what, what I'm channeling. This is what's coming through. It might sound a little woo woo, but like, this is, I just know that it works, right? It's interesting because you got the science where you can prove that it works, but I just know that it works. And so I don't know if that makes sense, but that was what was coming through when you asked that question.
So I was thinking the first thing that came to my mind was the masculine and the feminine, the right side of the brain, the left side of the brain. So it really reminds me of the tangible and the non-tangible almost. It's like something that, the metaphysics is being a little more tangible, a little more science, like Amanda's saying, and a little more, fact-based, and then the spirituality is, believing and trusting and, very feminine and has all that feminine energy around it. And the way I see it is I love the combination of both. I'm really a science person. I love tangible, things of being able to have like physical proof and to show like, wow, this is real. Like, this is like amazing. And then I love spirituality. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, I used to listen like to the Tibetan monks on my radio when I was like 3 years old. Wow. So I love like listening to, to spiritual philosophies and believing and trusting in that faith and that heart-based. And again, like spirituality is very heart-based too. I also see that as like an emotion of feeling and a connectedness. Again, metaphysics is maybe doesn't feel like that as much, and it has its place, but I do feel like it's part of, they work together. I do see them definitely working together as the masculine and feminine. There's definitely a place for both, especially here on this earth where we're here to experience and feel the tangible and understand the tangible, because spiritual, if you're all up in your head and you're all spiritual, you can get lost and you'll just be like off in la la land for a little while. So it is nice to.
This is a great conversation. I love your insight on both of them. Now, it is true that the icons of spirituality, the master teachers, the monks throughout the millennia have what they've been saying about the truth of the oneness of all is now being proved by quantum physicists over the last 125 years. Actually, my friend Brendan D. Murphy, who was on this show, one of the very first shows 4 years ago, he's from Australia, wrote the book, The Grand Illusion, a synthesis of science and spirituality. It's a treatise of deep research on that connection of spirituality and science, proving what the spiritual teachers have been doing. And now I just released my own book for a shameless promotion, but it serves purpose here. True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, a beautiful symbiotic relationship. I did the same thing. I've got a combination of spiritual teachings and quotes, especially from A Course in Miracles, in combination with scientific studies from quantum physicists. And there really is a symbiotic relationship and a synthesis. So for the egoic world, it says, I need to see proof. The proof is there. The proof is there. All they have to do is look and open their heart and mind finally to say, oh, yeah.
Yeah. And some people just might need that truth or might need that physical, tangible truth. I can think of people specifically in my mind who are very philosophical and deep thinkers, but they need tangible truth and they need, it's their belief system, that the way they operate. But, I think both has its place and it's, there is something to be said about truly believing in something and, and then allowing it to show up in our life, or the way, when we truly believe it, it's like, this is when we can truly create it. If we don't believe, it's a little bit harder. I feel like there might be a part of you that's shutting it off and blocking it from truly happening.
that's like the difference between the classic line, I'll believe it when I see it. And now these days, people like us and much of the world are saying, I'll see it when I believe it. That's it.
Yeah, it's believe it to see it. I love it. It's like you believe it and then it shows up in the physical. And that's why I love what Ruth mentioned too, about, you know, we can do the manifestations and all the things. And I found that it's just been so crucial to bring everything into the root chakra, to bring everything down, you know, and that's when, you know, when we don't have that resistance, right? When we don't have the resistance, we start to actually see the physical manifestation. So I would also, you know, just recommend for anybody who might be feeling like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this law of attraction stuff for so long. Believe me, I've been there. I felt it. Like, just trust and don't give up, because it really does you really do start to see things. Cause I've been on my healing journey and this journey for probably about going on 9 years now. And it's just, you know, in the last like year or so that I've really started to see things start to show up in the physical. And, you know, that's everybody's on a different journey. So the time, again, is not a thing. And especially with everything going on the planet, everything is so accelerated because the amount of light that we're bringing in through these shifts and the raising of our frequency is shifting time on this planet to where, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll live a day and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I feel like I just lived a whole year in one day. Like, what day is it today? Because we're experiencing an acceleration. Because again, if time's not a thing, then we can you could put timelines on stuff, but you're literally just putting parameters on something when you could just say, I choose this or something better, something more expansive, and allow the universe to step in and deliver the how and the when. You know, we don't have to be in control of that. And I found like I can choose it, I can embody it, and then the universe just delivers it. And you're like, oh, wow, I didn't even expect it to show up like that. That's way cool. You know, like you just allow that flow because you don't have that resistance and you have that, again, that you're an embodiment of it and you just believe it at a whole new level, because it's just really what we're meant to do here. Like, again, I said this before, we're not meant to come here to struggle and suffer. Like, are we learning? Yes. Do we go through some things that feel like struggle and suffering? Like last year, Ruth knows, like there were a couple of times where I'm like, is there an eject button for this? Like whatever the heck, this simulation that we're in right now, like it feels a little heavy. I'm like, I don't know what I signed up for, but trust me, like it lifts. Like if you're listening to this and you've been, you know, kind of trudging through mud, like there is light at the end of the tunnel, and you do have, you know, that divine support from the universe, and you can just allow that in, and it really does shift things exponentially.
Yeah. Trust and being open to what will show up in your life. You know, so many times we're like trying to control the outcome or trying to control what's going to happen into the future. And it's just really about trusting and allowing what is ready to show up for us when it's ready to show up for us. Because I found too that sometimes it's like, you know, sometimes you just have to wait and sit back and, you know, maybe 2 years down the road, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe, you know, I was trying to make this happen so much and I'm so glad I didn't, you know. So they're, you know, when we look back in hindsight on things, I'm sure all of you can relate to that. Like, you know, looking back at a certain time and you really wanted something and yeah, really, truly like trusting the universe and trusting source, trusting God, trusting, you know, allowing the universe to support you, you know, and our angelic realms to support us and the spirits around us. Like my mom who passed away, like, I feel like she's here all the time, like guiding me and directing me and showing me signs and like really, truly like trusting these things that are there showing up in our life and consistency too. I was going to say too, with Amanda, you know, when we're trying to manifest and create things in our life, sometimes it's these certain practices that we do with consistency. Like I know you were doing that one practice and all of a sudden it started to show up in your life and you're like, you know, it was, you know, I stayed on my path And I stayed in that consistency of doing these practices, keeping your vibe up, keep, attract, with maybe money or something, you want to stay in the vibration of love of money and that frequency of it, and all these things. But consistency was another really great thing that I found that's worked good.
When we do those things that you just mentioned, then you really can be, if you stay in that realm, then you really can become a consistent co-creator with the universe in really bringing in all those things, working in a perfect alignment with the law of attraction in the universe to bring those beautiful things into your life. I just want to remind people we're talking to Amanda Monnier and Ruth Hermida, two ladies of light, love, and truth, and energy healers. We've had an amazing conversation so far. We're going to wind up here in a little bit, but I do want to touch on one thing too. Again, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, Ruth. How can there's a gap throughout all human history between the masculine and the feminine. What can we do now with the knowledge and understanding we have to heal that gap? And I know there's a beautiful rise of the divine feminine too. What can we do about it?
So I don't know, Amanda, you want to start on this one? There's a lot of things that I could.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I feel that it's first an inner union of your own divine feminine and divine masculine, because we have a lot of inversions with the masculine and feminine on the external as well. But it all starts from within. So, what I would guide and ask people, well, what is your relationship to your own feminine, your inner feminine, your flow, your intuition, your graciousness, like all those frequencies that make up the feminine? And then what is your relationship to your inner masculine, the safety, the security, the inspired action taking, that just kind of firm foundation, that provision energy. So what is the relationship there? Because we've had so many distortions around this and around, I call it the divine union template. So it's again, within and without. And this is something for me that I've really had to go deep on, because I maybe mentioned it on our last conversation, but I was in law enforcement for about 6 years. And I came from a place to where for the first 31 years of my life, I functioned only in my masculine because it was how I stayed safe. I was very hard. I didn't understand or know what it meant to be in my feminine, because how could I, right? It was kind of those survival things that came up through childhood. And so, when I was able to soften and understand what that looks like to be in my feminine, and I'm still learning, like this is still a practice because it is, really new for a lot of people. We have a lot of hardened women in society, and we have a lot of soft men. So it's twofold. And, only you listening can really reflect on this for yourself. But, at the very deep level, I think that we know what's going on. Like intuitively, we know what's going on. I knew that me being in my masculine as a woman, I was attracting very soft men. So it's like this balance. So in that comes with that inner union of both polarities. And, you'll see it play out in other areas of your life when it comes to work and money, and, it trickles out. So I feel like this is definitely a very important conversation, and one that could be a whole series of podcast episodes. And there are some beautiful experts in this field that really teach on the different energies and frequencies, because as I can speak from like the feminine, but as the feminine, we have actually a lot of healing to still do, because we have a lot of us that are still, it's like, we've been kind of in this patriarchal kind of energy, but then it's like, what are we going to do? Swing to the other direction of being like fully in the matriarchal, like and having an imbalance on that end? Like, in my humble opinion, like back to center, because we all have a beautiful part to play in this, and we're all all, we're in this, relationship with the masculine and the feminine. And so, my invitation for those of you would be, to kind of reflect on what is your relationship with the feminine, inward and outward, and what is your relationship with the masculine, inward and outward. And that'll give you a lot of information, as to where there may be some, reflection and shifts to be had. And again, it's been a very humbling experience, because I personally, as a woman, like, I want to be in that leadership energy of a man, but then it's like, there are things I'm doing in my business and things that require some masculine energy. So again, I could go on for hours, and there's so many conversations to be had on the subject, but first and always it comes from within, and then you can connect to, whatever you call it. But I feel that there's like mother, father, God, right? And so, let's say, for example, those of you women listening, let's say you never had that father figure, you never felt that energy of support and provision. You can connect to that. Like, you have everything is free. You have access to that frequency at any moment. And so, vice versa for the men. And, we can really, the change in paradigm is conscious relationships. And that's where we're headed. The unconscious, like fighting and, the egos going at each other, like, that's old earth. That's not where we're headed. We're headed to beautiful, divine family units, conscious unions. Again, at least from my very humble perspective, but I feel like that is really desired by a lot. And I see a lot of that going on. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, you definitely touched on a lot of things, and I'll even add, we have, like you said, we have both of us within us, and it's really about healing both sides, because I'm sure a lot of us have, wounded feminines and wounded masculines within our body, and then we have this physical body, which is male and female, and there's physical, going on to the physical body itself. The male body, it's the physical male body, does certain things that puts them in a specific, like, for instance, the male body is constantly releasing dopamine, and dopamine is our go, 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 go. And this is what's created our society for so long. We've been on this patriarchal, all the structures of our society has been built around the masculine body, physical body, the way it's manifested itself. And it's, constant. And it's also, the male body is also on a 24-hour system. So it's constantly, it's very flat and plateau and just dopamine it is dopamine. And it's just like in this go mode. And us females have been trying to work under the male parameters of this, and now have just burned themselves out. And we just are not in our divine truth. And we've seen this with COVID now. We see that so many women have left the workforce and are not going back, because it's like, what the fuck have I been doing? Sorry for my language, but like, what have I been doing for so long, for like, working myself so hard, and I'm burned out? It's because the females have cycles, and we run off the cuddle hormone, and we run off, I think it's serotonin, or is it oxytocin, I think it is. Yeah, oxytocin. And so we run off this like cyclical thing. And so now it's really coming back into finding, with the physical body, of how we run on the physical level, how the male runs on its physical level, and coming back to our truth and finding balance, and then finding balance in society. Like Amanda said, what are we going to do? Are we going to push all the males to start working on cycles like the females? Like, that's not going to work out. So it's really coming back within, and really truly finding that balance, and really understanding how you tick and how your body works, and allowing yourself to live that way and be in that truth out in the world.
Wow.
And bring our society back to that place as well.
You guys are wise beyond your years, considering you're only like 20 years old each. So this is amazing. I'm going to wind up with my take on that. I think that especially men, they're afraid to take on any of this divine feminine energy. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be girly, but in truth, you can be a manly man and you can be a girly girl. But as you said, Ruth, attain that balance. You don't have to go overboard on either side, and we'll probably always see that happen, but you can be a man, you can be a woman, but find that balance of compassion and truth and light and love within yourself. So ladies,
it comes back to harmony. We were talking about harmony and equilibrium this whole conversation, and it literally on body stuff, on relationship stuff, on inner healing, like it all is coming back to the same thing, and it just balance, equilibrium, and harmony.
Well, this has been amazing, ladies. Amanda Monnier and Ruth Hermida, thank you for coming back on World Awakenings. I always like to finish. How can people connect with you, Amanda? What's the best way people can communicate with you and maybe get coached by you?
Yeah, my website I feel would be the best spot, which is just my name, Amanda Monnier, Monnier. I actually just made a bunch of my healing audios free on my website. So I have, probably, I don't know, maybe like 9 or 10 on there. So you can go through and feel into what resonates. And then, if you feel guided to work with me, I have a new client call on there as well. So if that resonates, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But my website is where I would recommend people start.
Okay. And Ruth, if I remember, you didn't have a website before, still no, or people can...
I know because I've been doing my dental hygiene work, but I'm still on Facebook. I use my coaching, healing stuff is under Open Heart Coaching. And I have a page for that. And I also can be contacted through, instant messenger through that. And then also my email, and I don't know if we can put it, it's down below at some point, but it's ludwigruth1@gmail.com. Those are the two best ways to contact me. I'm also on Instagram as well, and on Ruth Hermida.
Okay.
So
good old social media.
Yeah, good old social media. I mean, I know one day I'm like, I should probably make a website, but it's just been like with a family and kids. This
has been an awesome conversation. Thank you, my two beautiful friends, for being on the show. I really enjoyed this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carol, for having us. It's been an amazing conversation. I'm so grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Carl. This has been great.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.